On September 16, 2025, the South China Sea looked peaceful, its glassy surface reflecting the soft glow of dawn. Fishermen prepared for another day, unaware that the calm would soon shatter. Suddenly, a Philippine fisheries vessel found itself encircled by massive Chinese Coast Guard ships near Scarborough Shoal, their imposing hulls dwarfing the local boat. The Chinese ships closed in, forming a menacing circle around the much smaller Philippine boat. Tension crackled in the salty air as radios buzzed with urgent voices. Without warning, powerful water cannons erupted from the Chinese decks, hammering the Philippine vessel with relentless force. The jets of water battered the hull, sending shockwaves through the crew. The crew scrambled for cover as windows shattered and equipment was battered. The deck became a chaos of flying glass and splintered wood as men shouted orders and tried to shield themselves. For 30 minutes the assault continued, leaving the ship damaged and a crew member injured. The vessel, meant for peaceful work, was left limping and scarred by the attack. In the aftermath, China accused the Philippine vessel of ramming, a claim Manila flatly denied. Both sides traded accusations, fueling diplomatic tensions. For the Filipino crew, the reality was clear. They were outmatched and attacked while delivering aid in their own waters. Their mission, meant to help, had turned into a struggle for safety and survival. This was not an isolated event, but the latest and most violent flashpoint in a long-simmering conflict. Scarborough Shoal has seen many confrontations, each one raising the stakes. The incident marked a dangerous escalation in the standoff between the Philippines and China, drawing international concern and calls for restraint. It brought the geopolitical dispute into sharp human focus, showing the real dangers faced by Filipinos at sea. Families waited anxiously on shore, fearing for their loved ones. The water cannon attack was more than intimidation. It was a forceful message about control and sovereignty, echoing far beyond the waves of Scarborough Shoal. For the Philippines, the South China Sea, known locally as the West Philippine Sea, is the nation's lifeblood. These waters are not just a geographic feature, they are woven into the daily existence and identity of millions of Filipinos. Generations of Filipino fishermen have relied on these waters, especially Scarborough Shoal, for their livelihoods and food security. The sea provides fish that fill local markets and family tables, sustaining coastal communities for centuries. When access is blocked, it threatens the survival of thousands of families. The loss of fishing grounds means lost income, hunger, and a way of life slipping away. Beneath the waves lie untapped reserves of oil and natural gas, resources that could transform the Philippine economy. These energy sources offer hope for a future less dependent on foreign imports and more secure for generations to come. Control over these waters means energy independence and a chance to lift millions out of poverty. It could fund schools, hospitals, and infrastructure, changing lives across the archipelago. The South China Sea is also a vital shipping lane, connecting the Philippines to global trade. Every year, trillions of dollars worth of goods pass through these waters, making them essential for economic stability. If a single power dominates these waters, it could choke off supply lines for the entire region. The freedom of navigation here is crucial not just for the Philippines, but for the world. Scarborough Shoal is just 140 miles from Luzon, well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Its proximity makes it a critical part of the nation's maritime territory. For Filipinos, foreign ships dictating access so close to home is a direct challenge to their sovereignty. It's a daily reminder of the struggle to protect what is rightfully theirs. President Marcos Jr. has vowed not to yield an inch of territory, a sentiment that resonates deeply across the nation. His stance reflects the determination of a people unwilling to be pushed aside. This fight is about more than resources. It's about national dignity and the right to exist as a sovereign state. The struggle unites Filipinos from all walks of life, inspiring hope and resilience. The stakes are nothing less than the country's future. For the Philippines, these waters are a promise to protect, to prosper, and to endure. China's actions in the South China Sea are part of a calculated campaign to assert dominance over nearly the entire waterway. Its sweeping 9-line claim, rejected by an international tribunal in 2016, covers 90% of the sea and overlaps with its neighbors' waters. China uses gray zone tactics, coercion just short of war, deploying Coast Guard ships and maritime militias to intimidate and block others. The Scarborough Shoal water cannon attack is a textbook example. Recently, China declared a nature reserve over part of the shoal, a move widely seen as an attempt to legitimize its claim. Manila protested, calling it unlawful and a violation of Philippine rights. Meanwhile, China has built and militarized artificial islands, turning reefs into forward military bases. For the Philippines, these man-made fortresses are a permanent, intimidating symbol of China's expanding reach. Despite escalating aggression, the Philippines refuses to back down. Under President Marcos Jr., Manila has adopted a strategy of transparency, embedding journalists on patrols and releasing footage of confrontations to the world. The government issues sharp diplomatic protests, demanding China respect Philippine sovereignty and international law. Marcos Jr.'s pledge not to surrender territory has become a national rallying cry. Philippine Coast Guard and Navy crews continue risky patrols and resupply missions, asserting sovereignty through action. The government is also modernizing its military and deepening alliances, especially with the United States. Joint patrols and military exercises with allies send a clear message: the Philippines is not alone. This multi-pronged approach, public exposure, diplomacy, persistence at sea, and alliance building, defines the country's stand. The struggle is as much about courage and resolve as it is about ships and territory. The Philippines' struggle has drawn global attention and support. The United States, bound by a mutual defense treaty, has repeatedly affirmed its commitment to defend Philippine vessels in the South China Sea. After the latest incidents, U.S. officials swiftly condemned China's actions and praised the professionalism of the Philippine crew. ASEAN, though divided, is pushing for a binding code of conduct to manage disputes and prevent escalation. The Philippines, set to chair ASEAN, has made this a top priority. Other powers, Australia, Japan, the UK, and Canada, have increased naval patrols and joined military exercises, reinforcing the message that these are international waters. This growing coalition signals to Beijing that its attempts to dominate the sea will be met with a united response. The world is watching and acting. Despite rising tensions at sea, diplomacy between the Philippines and China remains surprisingly cordial, with both sides maintaining a facade of cooperation, even as disputes simmer beneath the surface. Just days after the Scarborough Shoal incident, President Marcos Jr. hosted a warm farewell for China's ambassador, emphasizing the importance of continued cooperation and robust trade ties, even as maritime confrontations made headlines. China is both a formidable maritime rival and the Philippines' largest trading partner, making the relationship a delicate balancing act for Manila. Economic interdependence means that, despite security concerns, both nations have much to lose if ties break down. The government confronts China at sea, defending its territorial claims, but keeps economic and diplomatic channels open, hoping to avoid escalation while protecting national interests. Back-channel talks and quiet negotiations have yielded temporary solutions, such as resupply agreements for contested outposts, allowing both sides to claim progress without resolving the underlying disputes. Yet this dual approach often sends mixed signals and is met with skepticism by those on the front lines: fishermen, Coast Guard crews, and military officials who face the daily reality of confrontation. Coast Guard officials who face relentless pressure from China openly criticize diplomatic niceties, arguing that gestures in Manila do little to change the situation at sea. The paradox of handshakes in the palace and hostilities at sea is the central challenge for the Philippines, highlighting the gap between official statements and the tense reality offshore. Navigating this complex relationship is a test of both resolve and pragmatism, demanding careful strategy as the Philippines seeks to defend its sovereignty without sacrificing vital economic ties. The South China Sea conflict is rooted in decades of competing claims and historical grievances. In 2012, China seized control of Scarborough Shoal, blocking Filipino fishermen and prompting Manila to seek international arbitration. The 2016 Hague ruling overwhelmingly favored the Philippines, declaring China's 9-dash line invalid and affirming Philippine rights. China rejected the ruling and intensified its activities, building islands, militarizing, and harassing Philippine vessels. This defiance challenges not just the Philippines but the entire rules-based international order. The Philippines is defending a legal victory and the principle of international law. Economic ties with China add complexity, but have never resolved the sovereignty dispute. The current confrontations are a direct result of China's refusal to accept the 2016 ruling. The world can no longer look away from the escalating conflict in the South China Sea. This is not just a territorial dispute, it's a test of the rule of law versus the rule of force. If powerful nations can ignore legal rulings and impose their will, global stability is at risk. International support must go beyond words. Joint patrols, freedom of navigation operations, and direct assistance to the Philippines are essential. At the same time, diplomacy must remain open, with a binding code of conduct as the goal. China's genuine participation would show it's ready to be a responsible global power. The stakes are high. A single miscalculation could spark a wider conflict. Supporting the Philippines is about defending the legal order that benefits all nations. Despite the storm clouds, hope remains for the South China Sea. The Philippines has shown that even a smaller nation can stand up for its rights with courage and creativity. By using transparency and alliances, it has reframed the dispute as a moral and legal struggle. The path forward requires resolve, patience, and a refusal to be worn down by China's campaign of attrition. Dialogue and economic engagement with China must continue, offering off-ramps from crisis. The international community must encourage China to choose cooperation over coercion. The future will be shaped by the bravery of those at sea, the wisdom of diplomats, and the unity of nations defending the rule of law. The fight for the West Philippine Sea is a defining struggle, and a peaceful, stable future is within reach if we stand together.